Well, I'm back, folks. Jason Hoppy here to show you how to create this really cool effect of light coming through the woods. Now, I grabbed this image off the Adobe stock photo site here because I thought it was a really great image to be able to work with here to get light showing through the forest, like a really bright light up here in the middle showing through the woods. And you think, oh my gosh, how do you do that? Well, here's what we're going to do. So I've got my image, and I'm going to jump over to my channels here, and I'm going to run through my channels, and I'm going to see which channel is going to provide the best contrast between the trees and the light coming through. And so if I look at the red channel, everything's way too bright. If I look at the green channel, I'm picking up a lot of these little edges of these evergreens here. The blue channel is the one that's going to give me the darkest. So I'm going to grab that blue channel, drag it on down to the plus. So I want to duplicate that blue channel. And on that blue channel, I'm going to do a levels, which is going to be Command or Control L. And with the levels, what I want to do is I want to ramp up my shadows here to really darken up those shadows. Take my highlight slider in here and really lighten that up there. And you can see what happens. I start getting kind of this openness through the sky up here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and set my colors to the default black and white. And I'm going to come over here to my blue copy. I'm going to grab my brush, and I'm going to just do a soft, round brush, a large brush, 100% black. And I just want to paint in these areas here because I'm not concerned about getting the detail from down here. So I'm just using a large, soft brush, painting in black, which is basically going to just cancel out any type of selection down there, because really all I want is this light filtering through the clouds up here, or the trees, okay? So when I'm done with that, I'm going to hold down my Command key, and I'm going to come over here to the channel. I'm going to hold down my Command or Control and click, and that's going to activate the selection around my pixels. And what I want to do is I want to select the inverse so that just the selection of the lightest areas are going to be showing. Okay, and just select the inverse, go under Select, and there's your inverse, Shift Command or Shift Control I. With this selection active, I'm going to go back and click on my composite channel here in my channels. I'm going to go into my layers panel here. And then I'm going to go in here and I'm going to duplicate this layer just for the sole purpose of putting a mask on it. I'm not going to use that, but I just want to capture this mask. So with my selection active, I'm going to come into my layer here. I'm going to do a, actually I'm going to put a mask on this first. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to mask that. I'm going to mask this whole thing out just like this. Now I'm going to do a Command J on this layer, turn off the original layer here that I have. Right click on this mask, and I'm simply going to delete the mask, okay? And the reason why is because now I've got this mask right here for this selection. This is what I want, okay? And the reason why I did this as a mask is because I can always go back and I can always Command click on this mask thumbnail here to get that selection back, which is exactly what I want to do, okay? Because I don't want to mask out my image right now to see this. What I want to do is I want to have my original image here with the mask. So I Command click on the mask and I get my selection loaded. I'm going to add a new layer up above here, and I'm going to fill that new layer with white with this selection active. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to only fill in the area of my selection. So I've chosen white from my color picker. I've got my new layer active. I'm going to use my Option or Alt Delete to fill that area with white. Okay, so I end up with just that. In fact, you don't see it very well, but you see kind of that glow coming through on its own layer here. Now I'm going to right click and I'm going to turn this into a smart object here. And now I'm going to go into the filter menu and we're going to add some noise. So filter, noise, add noise. And I'm going to add a little bit of noise to this. And this is a whole lot of noise. I don't want too much. I want just some noise in here. Okay. Not much, but just some. And this is going to add it as a smart filter so we can always take that off. Next, so I'm going to go into my filter menu and I would like to do a blur here. And what I want to do is I want to do a radial blur. And I have the spin mode, which spins it around, but I'm going to use the zoom effect here, and I'm going to set this to be a lot of zoom. Okay. Now there's no preview here, Okay, so you really can't see what's going on, and this is the reason why we do it as a smart filter. I'm going to click on the center here, and I'm going to bring this up because I would like the center kind of up here higher where the sun would be showing through the clouds. And so I'm going to use the zoom effect here, and I'm going to ramp that up. I'm going to do it about 50 because I'm not quite sure how this is going to look. So zoom effect, best quality, and I'm going to click OK. It's going to take a few seconds to render this onto my smart object. So give it a second, and let's see what this does. It should take all of my white here and kind of do this zoom blur effect, and it should come right at you. Again, takes a little bit of processing power with this. So there we go. Awesome. Okay, that looks pretty cool. Now it's like, all right, but you can see what's happening here is that it's like coming at us way, way, way too strong. Okay, so here's the fun part with this. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, remember this mask that we did down here? What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this mask up to my white layer here. So with this mask, I'm going to Option or Alt click on that mask and drag it up and apply it to my image. But you'll notice when I apply the mask, it cuts off my really cool blur effect. So I'm going to take this mask and double click on it to call up my properties panel. And I'm going to cut the density of this mask way back. Okay, say like 50%. And what this is doing is this is allowing this to come through at about a 50% rate. Okay. And black conceals, white reveals. Black is going to hide everything, white's going to show everything, but I want a little bit coming through here. So with this layer, I'm also going to go in and I'm going to copy this layer again and do a Command J as well to duplicate this again. So now what I can do here is I've got this exact duplicate, so it's really strong. I like that intensity, but here I'm going to specifically cut back the opacity of this particular layer right here. And I could go back into this density as well too, and I can kind of bump up the density here. And when I bump up the density, that means I'm going to get less rays of light on the trees, because remember, if I set this up, you'll see that this conceals all of the trees, but just lets the sun show through. But I do want to let a little bit through there. So I'm using a combination of opacity of the layer and opacity of the mask too, to get that to show through to make it look really cool. Okay, now pretty awesome. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back down here to my original layer and I'm going to shift click and turn my mask off. Okay. Now what I'd like to do is I'm going to take this image right here, and I'm saving this one down here, this copy, for a reason. I'm going to take this image and I'm going to do what's called an apply image. And when I click on this image here, I'm going to go under the image menu and I'm going to go down to apply image, and it's going to take this and it's going to apply this image to itself. Okay. And so when I come in here, I want to have the merged layers, and I want to have the channel being RGB, and I want the blend mode to be difference. Now, you can run through all these different blend modes here when you're using the apply image, and it's going to create all these cool, funky, crazy things. But I'm going to use difference here. I'm going to click OK. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this difference here, and I'm going to set this opacity back a little bit here, turn on my original layer here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through my blending modes here, and I'm going to come into, you could do something really spooky, like with hard light or vivid light, which really cuts back the intensity of the entire forest. And I'm doing this on my apply image layer here. Now my apply image layer, I've got it about 40%. So I'm going to go to my move tool, and I'm going to use my Shift plus. I'm going to walk through all my different blending modes. What I like about this is this gives me variations on what this image is using to blend into the layer down below. Okay. And what's cool is I can get something really dark. I can get those highlights really pronounced. I can have a normal look, kind of overpowering here. But I can also go in and I can darken the forest substantially if I want to, and have that light kind of coming through and have it be really creepy look with this. So a lot of cool stuff that you can do with this depending on how far you want to go. And again, you can adjust the opacity of this to create different intensities of that here. And this is the way you can go in and do amazing things. Now, if you want to add some color to this white, just click on any one of these white layers that you have, create a new layer up above, And if you'd like to add a little bit of color here, I'm going to go to my color picker. I'm going to add a little bit of color here. I'm going to fill this entire layer with a color by using my Option or Alt Delete. Then I'm going to Option or Alt click in between here, and this will clip this to the areas of the pixels right here. And this adds just a little bit of color, and you can control the intensity of this color right here, controlling the intensity of that layer so that it only clips to where you see what's going on here, and it makes it pretty awesome. So you can get different colors and make it a little bit more eerie as well. And you can also go in, and if you'd like to mask this out, I could go in and I could apply a mask to this. And on this layer, I'm going to take my large brush on my mask right here, and I'm going to, with black, I'm going to hide this area. Okay, so it kind of puts a hole right there, and then I can invert this mask by doing Command or Control I, which will then only allow the yellow through right here and allow that to filter out. If you click on your mask and do your Command or Control I again, what that does is that will hide, so it kind of comes through, okay, all here where it's white, but it hides the yellow where it's black. So black conceals, white reveals. So you could come in here if you wanted to and kind of paint on this layer a different color to kind of change that look and feel in that aspect. And of course, you can always go back in and cut down the opacity of these layers in order to filter the light through and create a really eerie, creepy type of appearance. Now you could do this kind of as a night scene by doing like a dark blue or something so it really shows through and it really vibrates. But this is the basic idea of how you'd go through and have this light shining through a forest. Because remember, this is where we started from, right there. That's what it looked like, pretty normal and boring on a foggy day. But all of a sudden we made it kind of freaky and scary and creepy with those few simple steps. It's fun. Give it a shot.